In this video, I just wanted to go over 2 or 3 essential accessories that can really make a difference to your photography, and they don't really cost a lot. Most of us do have a tripod, maybe quite a substantial one like a Manfrotto or something. They're wonderful for what you use them for, but how often do you go wandering around with a 2 or 3 kilo tripod? Not always. You need a tripod for certain shots, or the tripod will make a big difference. But if you have a DSLR, you want a combination of small but strong enough to support a DSLR. This is actually a cheap knockoff of the Mini Manfrotto, but it still does the job. It's tiny, it's small enough, you can put your camera on and hold it if you want to vlog. It is strong enough to actually support a DSLR with a decent lens. You literally press the button and you can adjust it on its ball head, release to lock, and it can do the job. But what else can you do? If you do have this in your bag, it weighs nothing, doesn't take up much room, so it's something you could always have with you. To make a big difference to your shots, the first item is a neutral density filter. This is like sunglasses for your camera. This can adjust from almost 0 down to a few stops. So why is this important? Well, if it's a bright day and you want to open your lens right up to f2, 1.8, 1.4 even, if it's bright, you won't be able to. That will be letting in too much light. Even if you can go up to 1/4000th or 1/8000th of a second shutter speed, it still could be too much light. When you have a neutral density filter, you can adjust the amount of light that is let into the lens so that you can open your lens out right up to 1.4, 1.8, even on the brightest of days, so that you can get that shallow depth of field for a creative shot where you want to blur the background out. So that is very, very good. These range quite a lot in price. They vary quite a lot from a basic one. This is not a very expensive one, but for what I use it for, it's fine. This is a 77mm thread. I normally buy one to suit my largest lens, and I have adapters to fit them onto my 67, 62 and 52 lenses, so that I only need the one. So this is definitely worth having because it's amazing, and it's definitely needed if you're shooting video, because with video you can't really adjust your shutter speed. You set your aperture according to the effect that you want. The only other way you can control your exposure is with ISO and with a variable density filter. So this is an essential for video, but it's also very, very handy for photography. Another accessory that is fantastic and can give you really creative shots. They're not really that expensive. Again, you can get these online. You can buy a basic unbranded one, or you could pay a lot of money and buy a really high quality one. You wouldn't see much difference unless you actually look very closely. So again, that's a personal choice. This is an ND100 filter, and although it looks like it doesn't let any light through, it's black, it does actually let a little bit of light through, but this will drop your exposure by 10 stops. So you could go from a 30th, a 60th, whatever, down to 30 seconds, 60 seconds, 2 minutes. Now, what would that do for your photography? Well, to have an exposure of that length of time, your camera must be mounted on a tripod. And the effect that you can get when you use one of these, if you're photographing, say, a building, landscape, if your camera is on a tripod and the exposure is 1 or 2 minutes, if you think about it, what is the only thing that's going to change? The sky And if there are people, they more often than not will be blurred out. So whereas if you take a shot normally, any people in the photo will be frozen. If the exposure is a minute or two, unless there is that one annoying person who walks into your frame and stands dead still and doesn't move or hardly moves, most people will be blurred out of the shot, which is great. You can even blur out passing traffic in that amount of time. But also, the sky, the clouds move. You'd be surprised how fast they move. So on a cloudy day, or when there are some clouds in the sky, when you have an exposure of that length, the sky changes during the exposure, clouds move, and you get that dramatic cloud blur, which can look really effective. So you can have the main focus of your image, the building or whatever, perfectly sharp, and anything that moves will be blurred out because of the length of the exposure. Again, it's fantastic, weighs nothing, it's great to have in your kit. These two things, always have them with you. They can make an amazing difference to your images. You can be far more creative and add the tripod to that with these three items. You can really change the feeling of your images just by messing around with these items. So these are definitely three things that are worth considering. So there you go. Variable filter, ND100 and a mini tripod. You can actually buy, this one's less than a tenner. The Manfrotto one, which is definitely much better than this, is about £20–30 online, depending where you get it from. So it's always worth having one or even two of these because they're brilliant. Okay, bye.